Hi everyone. What I'd like to do in this video is just take you through a new feature that we've added in AdVenture 2.21 and higher. That is the survey wizard. And what we've found with our survey analytics module is that while it provides a lot of tools for doing in-depth analysis on the survey data, what we really needed in AdVenture was a streamlined version of that screen that would just allow quick access to those survey reports and also help new users get used to the system. So what we've done is create the survey report wizard, which I'm going to take you through now and show you what we've created. So the first tab here is select report, and this is going to allow me to either create a new report from scratch or select a previously saved report and rerun it with new data selection, making any changes that I want to, but based on a report that I've saved previously. So I have a list of company reports, which I don't have any here, which are reports that have been created by the company for me to use. And I also have a list of personal reports, which are ones that I've created in the past and saved away for later use. I also have a report preview screen here, which is just going to show me a mock-up of what my report is going to look like that I can make changes to as I'm going through the process of building or loading a report. All the data that you see in here is just mock-up data that's made up numbers that we've created just to give you an idea of the look and feel of the report that you're building. So I'm going to begin the process by creating a new report. The first tab that we have here is select values, which is just going to allow me to select which values and calculations I want to include in my report. Now at the moment, looking at my report preview, I can see that I've got share commercial, audience thousands, and cum thousands turned on. And if I want to make any changes to that, I just need to tick them on or off from this list. So let's say I don't want to include the commercial share, and I just want to have my audience thousands and my cum thousands. You notice when I tick that off, the commercial share column was dropped out of my report. So when I've made my selection, I can just come down and click Next. The Select Grouping tab is the next one, and this is going to allow me to configure the way the data is being grouped in my report. So at the moment, on the left-hand side of my report, I have the survey ID and the station, and I've got the stations grouped together by survey ID in this case. Now, let's say for instance I wanted to do analysis on the networks and how they're competing against each other. What I could do is come to my network option here, and I can choose to either add it to the left side of my report or add it to the top. So if I add it to the left, you'll see that the network column has dropped in on the right hand side of my station one. Now, I wanted to analyze how the networks were performing against each other. So I probably want to be grouping by network first. And what I can do is just click and drag that item over to the left, and it will now group my stations by the network that they're in. Now, I can also choose to add that to the top, and I'll just give you an idea of what that looks like. And that's just going to add that network column in at the top. Now again, that's not ideal for how I want to analyze this data, so I can just click and drag and move it down to the left hand side, and it's just going to move it over to the left, and my selection on the left will update to indicate that as well. So I just come through on this screen and add in the columns that I want to include in my report. When I click Next from here, I'm now in the Select Surveys tab, and this is going to allow me to select what surveys I want to look at. Now we have sort of like a natural English way of selecting what surveys you want to use at the top here. So I can say I want to look at the latest one survey this year, and I want to report on the following markets, and I can select from this list. I want to look at the Brisbane market, for instance, or Brisbane and Adelaide. And I have all my markets in here to select from. So that will automatically select the surveys that I'm looking at based on that sentence, I guess. If I want to make changes from there, I can come down to this list of individual surveys below and turn on surveys that I want to look at. So if I want to include Adelaide Survey 8 in that, I can do those changes. I don't need to work with this if I'm not comfortable doing that. But I'm just going to go with the latest survey in Brisbane for the moment. When I hit next, I'm going to be asked to select the demographics that I want to look at. So in this case, I'm just going to use grocery buys. I'll hit next. And finally, just the day part selection that I want to analyze. So I'm just building up basically a selection of what survey data I'm interested in looking at. When I hit finish, I'm presented with a number of options here which are just going to allow me to finally configure my report. So the first thing I'm going to do here is just run the report, and then I'll explain each of the options afterwards. So I can run using selected data, and that is going to go away, and based on the selections that I've made and the report that I've built, do the calculations on the data and show it to me. And I can see here the last survey that I have in the system for Brisbane. It's loaded in the networks, it's loaded in the stations, and I have my statistics visible here as well for the demographic and the day part that I'm looking at. So it's loaded in and created that report just as I saw it based on the selections that I made. So I have a number of options in this screen from here. I can choose to save this report as a template that I would like to come back and use again. So let's just call this my network analysis report, and that will save that template away, and I can come back to my select report at any time, and I can see that that report's now in here for me to use later. I can also choose to export this report out to Excel, which will just drop that report out for me as I see it on the right hand side. We've got a number of options here that I will just briefly explain. The first is Show Field Editor, which is, if I click it, is just going to bring up a more advanced selection option for selecting fields, configuring how they look. So if, for instance, I wanted to get rid of the decimal places on this field, I could use this area on the right here to make that configuration. I won't go through all the options in here in this video, but if you want to do any sort of change to how the data is displayed, please contact our support department and we can walk you through it. So I'll just hide that away. We've got a couple of options here which are going to reconfigure the data itself. The first is Show Station Combinations, which will show me combined station results rather than single stations. So if I want to see how two stations are performing together, I can view a combined result by selecting by 2 here. I can also turn on place of listening. So if I want to see where the survey respondent was listening at the time and analyze the data in that way, I can choose to filter by place of listening and select the places that I want to include in my report. And finally, I skipped over these options, just turning on some grand totals or subtotals onto your report, and also a toggle here to just show commercial stations only. That's it for this video. If you have any questions, as I said, just contact our support department, and look out for more videos coming on this website If you've got any requests for videos, just please send them through to our support department and we'll create them for you. Cheers.